Hi everyone. Let's understand the scope creep. It's a brief overview. I'll give you how the scope creep is important, what is its definition. So that's thing I'll cover in detail. Let's move on the next slide. So what is a scope creep? The definition of scope creep is also known as the requirements creep and the features creep. Script. So refer to the uncontrollable growth or expansion of project scope after the project has officially begun. The growth of the project or new the in scope functionality enhancement. The business wants to add the out of scope functionality. In such a situation, the project will require more time, more budget, or the more resources, but we are not able to deliver that within the availability of resources or the budget, and it's not feasible. So in such a situation, the scope creep will happen. The key characteristics of the scope creep: it involves adding a new features, functionality, and requirement that were not part of the original and agreed upon the project. So that's the key characteristics why the scope creep will happen. An analogy: imagine building a house, okay, with a clear, but when continuously adding rooms, balconies, design changing after the construction has started, so it's difficult to do the make a changes like that in the after the construction happens, like a similar way happen in the IT projects or the projects. Okay, let's move on the next slide. So common causes of scope creep. So poorly define the scope, stakeholder requirement, lack of change control, gold plating, okay, and then miscommunication. So poorly defined scope, lack of clear detail and agreed upon the project requirement of the outset. So there is if there is the requirement gathering, lack of requirement gathering, and the business user are not able to give the clear and objective of the requirement, and he will continuously adding requirements, new requirement. So that's the common cause of the scope creep. Then the stakeholder request, the new ideas or changes requested by client, user, or stakeholder during the project life cycle. It's most important concept to scope creep. If they want to different way, there is a different way how the system should work, we should use that technique, we should add these things. So that kind of the requirement come from the change request, and continuously he gives the new requirement. So that's also the cause of the increase the scope creep. Lack of change control, there is no absence of the formal process of evaluation, approve, reject the changes to the project scope. So that's the lock of the change control. There is the change request document or the change control document. It should be a clear document. What are the in scope functionality object that should be written in that document. So we should have boundaries to build the functionality what we not you want to build in that the features or functions. So that should be there. So lack of change control, gold plating, project team member adding features they believe will be beneficial even if not requested or within the original scope. So that's not part of the scope, but they want and continuously adding. So that's also the gold plating we call them. And miscommunication, gaps in understanding between the stakeholder and the project team regarding the expectation. Correct, it's the most important part. Miscommunication, the business wants the system should work certain process wants some way, and the development team will done in another way. So that's the the large gap, miscommunication gaps, by which the scope creep will happen. Let's move on the next slide. Impacted of the scope creep, budget or budget overrun, new features require more resources leading to increase the cost. Yes, correct. So it increase the budget. If we plan for to deploy that project with the 1 cr, and if continuously the new requirement comes, then the technology will enhance, resource will require more, the time will require more, and that will be impacted on the budgets. So that's the budget overrun. Then the schedule delay, yeah, obviously. If the new if we are fixed in, we do the freeze the scope, but business wants new scope, or business give us the new business requirement, functional requirement, non-functional requirement. So that will schedule the delay to deliver the functions or the features to in the production environment. So additional work extend the project timeline, pushing the back deliverable dates. So reduce the quality. It will reduce the quality, and the development team will lose their hope. They will, they will continuously adding work on the same, and they will not, doing the continuous same thing with different way. So that's reduce the quality. They reduce their quality of work, racing, and the accommodated new scope can compromise the quality of existing work. Resource strain, it require, team member become the overwork, and moral can drop. Yes, correct, moral overwork and moral can drop the teamwork. So we need to continuously train them, motivate them, to make them happy, to always make them sure the why that is important, and they should be on same page. So that's thing happen. The project failure, yeah, this because of scope creep, there is a high chance to the failure of the projects, because continuously the change requirement are coming, and there is, we don't understand what are the, importance and urgent requirements. So that's the important part. So in extreme cases, uncontrollable scope creep can be lead the project abandonment or failure to meet the original objectives, and dissatisfied stakeholder correctly. Despite adding features, the core project might suffer, leading to frustration. So that's the dissatisfaction of the stakeholders. Let's move on the next slide. Preventing the scope creep, how we can, eliminate the scope creep, what are the action we should take to avoid the scope creep in the project. So first one is define the scope clearly. Second one is the get the formal sign off, implement the robust change control process. There is the continuously we are creating the change request document, continuously we are updating the stakeholder related to the change request, continuously we are taking the sign off, communication effectively, and educate the stakeholders. So clearly define the scope clearly, establish a detailed project scope statement or the statement of work at the beginning. We should define what are the in scope functionality, out scope functionality, what we are going to be process, and the as is process that should be there. And then get the formal sign up, ensure all the stakeholder formally approve the initial scope document. So that should be there. We take always sign up from the client whenever the changes is come, whenever the documentation is completed, on email sign off or on the document sign off. There is mostly email sign off happen in the organization. Then implementation, the reboot control change, all the change request must be documented. Whenever the change request will come, then the business analyst, the key roles and responsibilities to document that requirement, should do the analysis of that requirement, to allocate the resource at that requirement. Okay, then request and review the evaluated impact on time, cost, quality, and improve the risk by the relevant stakeholder. Approve the change are formally integrated with the project plans. Correct. So communicate effectively, maintain open and communicative communications, continue communication with the stakeholder about the project progress and any potential changes. Yeah, that's important. Business analysis, the core responsibility or the key responsibility, update and always understand, always conduct the meeting with the development team, testing team, business team, help them to understand the current progress or the process of the communication of the ongoing the projects, and educate the stakeholder to understand the stakeholder related to the change request, to give them, to make them they are on the same page for the change request. So help the stakeholder understand the impact of change on the project, and triple constraint, scope, time, and cost that should be there. Okay, let's move on the next slide. Managing the scope creep, when it will be happen, how we manage the scope creep, how we will, come on the track, what are the course of action we should take when the scope creep will happen. So identify it early. There is the most important way or the most important technique. We should identify the scope creep early before it will be, happen. We should always give to feedback to that situation to the business team or the development team. Be vigilant for any sign of the scope creep expansion. Document everything, keep a record of all the changes requested, discussion, and decisions. So there is a document, clear document of everything. If the scope creep will happen, so we will able to show that document and why that scope creep will happen. So business will continuously give us the requirement. So that thing will be there. Evaluate the impact. So for every proposed change, essence of impact on budget, schedule, resource, and quality. So you should evaluate all the impact of the scope creep. Then negotiate and the prioritize. We should prioritize what are the requirement, are the most important or urgent, or use the Moscow technique: must, should have, could have, will not have. So that should be prioritization of the all the requirements. Okay, work with the stakeholder to prioritize the change, what part we should cover. We use the data analysis technique, we use the highly usable system, we should have the high priority. Can some be the, we should do the deprioritize the requirement. Okay, can some defer to later phase and separate the project. Re baseline if approved. If a change is approved, then a rebaseline, formally update the project plan, budget, and schedule to reflect the new scope that should be there. And say no if that requirement is not feasible technically or functionally. So on that time you should say the business that should not happen and that should not work in the system. So sometimes it's necessary to decline change that are not feasible or aligned with the project goal. So that is also to one of the thing to manage the scope creep. Let's move the key takeaway from the scope creep. Scope creep is a common project management challenge. It is a very challenging thing for the business analyst or the for the project manager, for the product owner, for the scrum master. Okay, then the clear scope definition and strong change control process and crucial for the prevention. It should be eliminated. It should always track if there is a scope creep situation is happen. For new requirement, there should be a time, cost, and resource requirement should always updated to the business team. Okay, effective communication and stakeholder management are required. That's the most important. And the proactive identification and structure management are essential to keep the project on track. So that is also the important thing to avoid the scope creep and take away from that slides. Thank you guys to attending that session. I'll be making always video for you. If you want new video from me, then please suggest the topics. I'll be make video on that topic and upload it on the YouTube. Thank you so much for watching my videos. Thanks, and it will be motivate me to create more videos. Thanks.